Flushing girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Miss Fine.
Welcome back to another episode of Oh, Mr. Sheffield. It's a podcast about The Nanny, a hit sitcom from the 90s starring Fran Drescher. I'm Sean DiPasquale, and every single week I have to fight the urge to sing along with that opening theme and go, Miss Fine. But I don't, because I leave that to my talented co-host.
Toria Sheffield.
That's right.
Wow.
What?
That's the first time you've ever called me talented in 7 years.
It's true. Even when we work together, I never give you a single compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how you learn, Toria.
That's how I learned my true worth.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Listeners, normally we record bright and early Sunday mornings. We're both huge morning people, as in we're giants. No, we're both really into the morning. But this is a 7 p.m. record after a work day, so I probably sound sleepy, but I'm not. I'm just physically tired.
Wow. I mean, I was just asking how are you because it occurred to me that we don't really do that part of the show. We never do like a, hey, how you been? Let's catch up on business. We're always like, hi, welcome to the show. Here we go. The Nanny. And we go like right through it.
Because people don't want to know. They don't need to know. They don't want to know. They're here for the nanny, you know?
Yeah, but it's season 6. It's the last season. I feel like we should slow it down, you know? Chill out.
I'm in treatment for a yeast infection this week. Is that the kind of stuff? Is that the kind of stuff you want to know?
if that's what's going on in your life, my friend Toria, I'm happy to support you and listen to whatever you need to talk about.
Well, I'll tell you guys this: they are itchy and uncomfortable.
Wow.
Sorry, you finally asked me how I was, and I had to ruin it.
No, it didn't ruin it. Show me a person who's not have a yeast infection, and I show you a liar. So here's the thing. This episode is season 6, episode 5, Maggie's Boyfriend. It is directed by Peter Mark Jacobson.
Yay!
And it was written by Rick Shaw, who I know, I already looked up 4 seasons in a row. I remember. And here's the thing. When the episode starts, there's a very, very early on mention of Halloween. Mm-hmm. And Toria, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I love a Halloween sitcom episode. I love it more than anything in this world.
Mm-hmm. I think we did talk about this.
Maybe we did. I love it. And I was so depressed when this episode started because I was like, oh, there's nothing spooky. Like I'm not going to like this. And by the end of this episode, I got to say this might be one of my favorite in the whole series. I laughed so many times, Toria. I laughed. There's so many lines and moments that I don't even know where to start.
This was okay. Well, we'll start off by saying that this is the episode where we meet Maggie's new boyfriend, and she declares that they are moving in together, which causes some real tension between Maxwell and Fran because of their different parenting techniques.
And the boyfriend is like, I mean, in this time period, right? He would have been like a Mark Wahlberg type, right? He's supposed to be like he's like a sexy underwear model. That's what like that's
we'll get into all of it. But I have to agree with you. I loved this episode. I laughed so loud several times.
So loud.
And I just it was one of those things that also was the perfect marriage of comedy, but like character growth and playing on all that we know and love about these characters in an authentic way. Like they all reacted the way that felt earned. But again, we will get into it because this episode
was so good. This was firing on all cylinders, this episode. Like truly. Truly was.
Well, we established that, it's the Halloween season, and I think it's actually Halloween day, and Mr. Sheffield is not happy with Gracie's Halloween outfit.
Preposterous.
She's clearly dressed. She's dressed like Fran.
And not even like, bro, Fran has dressed so much more risque, I guess if you want to call it that. This outfit is like, she's fine. Like, I didn't understand this. I did not get at all. I get that he's like a tightwad, But like this, I didn't even understand because it's like there's not even. He's like, you can't let her leave the house like that. She's literally wearing like black tights, a skirt, like a long sleeve shirt.
It's because it's all very tight and there's a short skirt and he's very displeased. And, you know, Fran's basically like, what's the big deal? Like, you know, she's just dressed like me. And he's like, you know what? And I actually thought everything he said was super condescending, but he basically said that
it was awful.
You know, he reiterates that, like, you know, she's the children's mother and her example is going to mean a lot to them and even more than it did before now that she's like legally their guardian. And he even asked her to try to just be like a little more conservative that evening when Maggie's boyfriend comes over. And I went, why? Oh, and he was like, you know, because, you know, boys his age, like they'll take your example and then, you know, make assumptions about it. So is it like, he'll think Maggie's a hoe because Fran's dress hot? Like, it was so rude.
Dude.
And
my notes are all like, Maxwell's a tightwad. Gracie's outfit isn't even that bad. Why is he so insulting? I hate him so much.
Well, also because, and the thing is, she doesn't even get upset about it, but it's like, you know who you married, and now you're like, ooh, you know, you're actually like, you dress like a hoe, and I don't think it's a good example for my children. And it's like, what? You literally married this woman, and now you're just throwing insults at her. Again, I thought it was so rude, but she wasn't that upset about it. She was like, okay, whatever. We then go to the opening credits, and after that, we come back to Fran in the kitchen with Val and Niles, and she's kind of. Well, she didn't really, you know, create a big fuss about it with Maxwell. She's now venting about it to her friends. So she's like, how could Max not think I'm a good influence on the kids? And then Brayden comes in and he's like, Fran, that girl Kim still won't go out with me. And she's like, well, did you nonchalantly drop your Visa Platinum like I told you? And he goes, no, the regular. And she goes, you don't listen. And he goes up the stairs like, stupid. And also, side note, I think Val is becoming noticeably pregnant in real life. Like, I think she's all.
She's pulling a Cece.
Yeah, she was behind a table, but something's different about Val. And I think it's a pregnant belly that they're hiding.
Yep.
I think that would have been so funny, though, if they had somehow written that into the show. You know, we don't know who the father is. But so that's happening. And then Maggie comes into the kitchen and she says she's so nervous for her new boyfriend coming over for dinner. And then Niles is like, why? Because you need to cook the meal, polish the silver, and comb out all the rugs? And she's like, no, you do that. And then he goes, then chill out, girly. And I just wrote, Niles is the best. Maggie's annoying.
He's so sassy. I love him so much. Niles gets like some killer stuff to do in this episode. Mm-hmm. Really, truly killer stuff. Also, Maggie looking more and more like Cece with literally every season.
I know. It's
wild. It's wild. She looks great in that dress that she wears in this episode, that pink dress. Yeah. So it's beautiful. But man, she looks, her face, like everything.
Yeah.
Well, and Cece for that, while we're on the subject, she looks great. She lost all her baby weight.
You're not allowed to say that anymore, Sean.
What do you mean?
You're not allowed to talk about baby weight anymore. No.
You're not?
Apparently.
Is that true?
I think now it's like so much pressure to have the pre-baby bod. Like, let's not shame women for having the bodies that they just have after they've been through something so
okay, no, but that's fair, but I wasn't saying she should get back to her pre-baby bod. I was like, hey, her body is back.
No, I agree. And
so
listen,
wouldn't that be like acknowledging, she put the work, she like worked really hard and
you're just observing. You're not judging. You're just observing. No, but I have the same thought. I'm like, wow. But
I'm like Uatu the Watcher from the Marvel universe,
You just watch.
I just watch. I'm just an observer. I don't get involved. It's not my place.
Yeah, you're not passing like value on the pre or post baby bod. You just you would never.
No, I would never do this.
Well,
okay.
She's still pregnant or not pregnant. She is one hot lady, and
she was hot as hell when she was pregnant.
Hotter even. Now we're just trying to dig ourselves out of the hole. But so Niles burns Maggie by being like, well, then chill out because you don't actually have to do anything to prep. And then Maggie's like, Fran, I'm thinking of wearing one of your short skirts to dinner tonight. And Fran, towing Mr. Sheffield's line, was like, no, I think you should wear something long and conservative. And I wanted to be like, no, Fran, no. But so then that night, Maggie is really nervous about like how her dad's going to be and thinks he's going to tell his boring stories and this and that. And then, the doorbell rings. The new boyfriend walks in. He's super hot.
Yeah.
He's a very like 90s that guy. Like he's been in stuff. You've seen him if you watched, sitcoms, Boy Meets World.
Oh, I didn't recognize that boy at all. Is he a boy?
So he's definitely like, I think he literally like was in Boy Meets World and was in like one-offs all over the place.
Wow.
So he's a bit of that guy. And then I'll actually get more into who he is in trivia because there's some fascinating stuff.
Ooh.
But and this made me laugh. Mr. Sheffield's like, you look so familiar. Are you an actor? Have you read for me? And he goes, oh no, I'm a model. I don't read. But also, I totally thought that Maggie's new boyfriend was going to be the Jewish pre-med student from a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I was shocked that they went in a different direction. Like,
me too.
Why even bring up all the Jewish pre-med student stuff?
Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I just spit out my drink. You really got me there. I like leaned in with a ready for the explanation.
I mean, no. Look, maybe what happened was they wanted a Jewish pre-med student, and then they were like too on the nose, so they like swerved, and they still kept the Jewish part because they knew like they wanted that. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
We find out that he's not just a model. Yeah. He is an underwear model whose billboard is like huge in Times Square. And like, that's how they recognize him. So he's like a big deal, does very well. And then we cut to dinner and they're his name is Michael. They're like asking him about himself.
Oh my God. Gracie's delivery on, so Michael, how did you become an underpants model? It was so good.
He's clearly smitten as well.
Yeah, it was
She's
great.
crushing. And he basically, I did notice this. This is very of the time. Fran asks what his father does, but not what his mother does. And that's a very, dated thing to do, to be like, so what does your father do? But so.
Oh man, I hope my kids get asked that way. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. What does your father do? What do you mean do?
He makes us snacks.
Like for work. I don't know. He works at home, I guess. He makes us snacks. He packs our lunches. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, where's your mother? What do you mean she's at work? Oh.
I love it. I can't wait. So then, but he says his father is a plastic surgeon out on Long Island. He's like,
I'm basically like a walking example of feminism in action.
You're such an icon.
Oh.
You're such a hero.
See, as soon as people say stuff like that, that's when they get canceled. So I take it back. I'm a real piece of shit. Leave me alone.
But okay. So he says his father's a prominent plastic surgeon on Long Island, and then he's like, it's sad. It's mostly just a lot of older ladies trying to reclaim their youth. Some of them don't even use their real names. And then Cece walks by and he goes, Mrs. Bouvier?
Which, by the way, Marge Simpson's last name is Bouvier.
It is.
I wonder if this was a nod to that, or was this a nod to, because isn't Marge named after a Kennedy maiden name? Isn't that where Bouvier comes from? I think it's a Kennedy thing. Bouvier. I might be wrong there.
It is. I think it does predate Marge Simpson.
It does. I'm pretty sure it's like they named her that as like a nod to the Kennedys.
Do you remember when Grandpa Simpson wants to marry, I think, Marge's mother, and it's like The Graduate, and he's like, Mrs. Bouvier, Mrs. Bouvier.
Oh my God, should we just do a Simpsons recap show?
Oh God, I love it. It's just
then we'd have to do that. I mean, that's like 46 seasons. It would be the rest of our lives,
and they're still making them. But anyway, so very, very non-related tangent, but so. He goes, Mrs. Bouvier, because he clearly recognizes Cece, who gets plastic surgery and gives a fake name. And she goes, I'm sorry. Obviously, you have me mistaken for someone else, Michael. Damn it. like she totally gives herself away by knowing his name.
It's great.
Mm-hmm. And then Mr. Sheffield, who is clearly not convinced of this Michael boy, he's like, Michael, so do you have a backup plan for, when modeling is no longer viable? And Michael then reveals that he earns $800,000 a year, which I Googled it, the equivalent in purchasing power to about $1,400,000, basically $1.5 million. And so he's doing quite well.
Wow.
And it's revealed that Michael's Jewish, and Fran literally yells, "My life is complete. My daughter's marrying a Jewish male model."
Also, throughout all of this, we get this great Niles bit where every time he hears more about this kid's perfect little life, he gets more and more depressed and angry. He's throwing stuff in the kitchen and he's screaming to himself. And and then at one point he comes in and they're like, "Niles, are you okay?" And he goes, "Nothing an additional $780,000 couldn't fix."
He's just, this is very painful for him. And
so good.
But so when Fran yells, "My life is complete. My daughter's marrying a Jewish male model," Mr. Sheffield literally chokes on his food almost. And he's marrying. He's let's not rush things.
It would have been really funny if they swerved and he's Jewish.
Yeah. So Mr. Sheffield, he literally chokes at the word marriage. And he's like, that's not, rush ahead. It is important for young people to pace themselves, especially when they think they're falling in love. So he's very clear to be marriage is not on the table, and you guys might think you're crazy for each other, but you're young and you just met. So that's not even necessarily true either. But then Fran, she sort of pats him on the knee and she's like, yes, of course it's important not to rush into things, but it's also important not to act like you'll live to be 140. So they already are having a little bit of tension in how they feel about this relationship and the pace. And he literally kicks her under the table, not once, but several times. And to the point where she goes, "Unless you're expecting candy to start flopping out of my tuchus, stop whacking me under the table." And then I laughed so hard because just the wording, she didn't even say, "Unless you're expecting candy to start flowing out of my, flopping out of my tuchus," made me laugh so hard. Flopping out of my tuchus. Yeah. And they then get into a full on argument in front of the kids. And this was the word. He's like, "Darling, I think you should be acting more like a mother and less like her sister." Essentially being you should be putting some,
parental pressures on the situation instead of being so supportive and being "Awesome, this is so cool."
And she's like, "You're being absurd. Michael's clearly a nice, hardworking boy." And they literally are getting so heated that they leave the table and they go to finish the argument in private upstairs. Which that's a big move to leave a dinner table to keep fighting. But also I thought the actual content of the fight felt very realistic because he's basically your problem is you want the kids to like you, and being unlikable sometimes is a really big part of being a parent. And he's also sort of and did it ever occur to you that your support, your constant support, could enable her to do whatever she wants and then make bad decisions? And she had this really excellent, lovely sentiment where she goes, "No, my support gives her self-confidence and self-esteem, which enables her to make good decisions." And I will have to, you kind of have to give it to Mr. Sheffield here. He kind of looks really torn, but he knows that.
I mean, her response was perfect, right? Because they do a really good job in this episode. Sometimes I feel like they leave things a little nebulous, or they try to take both sides of an issue. And this episode, they pretty clearly are "Hey, his parenting style here is outdated and antiquated and wrong, and she does know what she's doing."
Yeah, and right? she's always been. I mean, that's the thing. She's always had much better instincts than he has. The second she walked into their home, she had better instincts in how to deal with his children than he does.
Yes, exactly.
And
he sucks as a parent.
He's ill-equipped. And we know that. That's why she's such a great nanny. And that's why, it seems like for a while, he and Niles were their sole caretakers. So they probably have some trauma.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
But Maxwell, he knows she has a point, and they ultimately make up, and they make up so much so that they start flirting, and she says she's going to go downstairs to get some Haagen-Dazs from the freezer. And he's like, why? And she's like, so I'll have something to wear. So I guess implying that she's going to rub ice cream all over her body and he's going to lick it off her. And then I just wrote, isn't the dinner still going on downstairs? But regardless, she leaves the bedroom and she's going to get the ice cream. But then Maggie kind of catches her in the hallway. And she's like, Fran, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me. I appreciate it so much. And she's like, oh, honey, of course. And she's like, and your support means so much to me that I wanted you to be the first to know that Michael and I are moving in together.
Womp, womp,
which is like, uh-oh, Fran's plan definitely backfired.
Yep.
So the next morning in Mr. Sheffield's office, we find out that Fran did not tell him the big news last night. She allowed him to ravage her. But it was actually the opposite, because she comes into the office and he's like, oh, darling, I just wanted to say, like, you were incredible last night. You were such a generous lover. And then she's like, yeah, I'm trying out this new thing where I make love like every time will be our last, because she knows that like the news about Maggie and her boyfriend's going to break eventually. Cece walks in. Her face is literally half paralyzed. She's like, hi, everybody. and they're like, Cece, Miss Babcock, something seems off with your face. And she goes, oh, yeah, I think the plastic surgeon might have just injected the Botox a little off. and then she goes, maybe he was distracted by the fact that his son is moving in with your daughter. So,
Yep.
Cece lets the cat out of the bag because she, of course, sees Michael's father. And what ensues is an incredibly goofy chase scene. She ultimately escapes by opening the front door and screaming, oh my God, is that Kay? Oh no, she opens the front door to escape, but he is already there waiting for her because he was like preempted where she was going to run next. And then she points behind him and goes, oh my God, is that Kay Ballard? And he goes, Kay? Where? And he turns around and she slams the door and locks it, because we had previously established that Mr. Sheffield loves telling his, quote, Kay Ballard anecdotes. And she was like a comedian actress from the 40s.
I mean, come on. If you don't know her as the mayor in Baby Geniuses, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. I really don't know what you're doing with your life.
Very famous comedian from the 40s. And I just made this note. I went, it really is so shocking that Mr. Sheffield's a straight man sometimes. Like, the look on his face when he thought, 40s icon Kay Ballard was behind him. And
you mean Kay Ballard, the voice of Madame Agogo in the 1989 Super Mario Brothers Super Show? One episode?
Stop cherry picking her IMDb. So then we cut to that night. It is Halloween night, and Fran is at Sylvia's helping her pass out candy, and Yet is there too. This scene was so funny. This entire scene from beginning to end, I died. So
give them an Emmy for this scene.
Oh my God. So the first thing is the doorbell rings and it's these two little trick-or-treaters, and Fran's about to give them, like, she holds a bowl and she goes, Ma, there's no candy in the bowl. Did you give it all out already? And Sylvia just goes, yeah. She totally just ate all the candies. And then she's like, well, okay, Ma, do you like how many pennies you can give out at least? And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So she picks up this like little cup of pennies and she goes and she like puts them in the kids' like little candy baskets and closes the door. And then we see the kids on the other side of the door and they look in their baskets and one of them goes, hey, that lady took our candy. So Sylvia pickpocketed candy from children by pretending to give them pennies.
Oh, it's so good. And then it just keeps getting funnier.
Well, because then Sylvia sits back down and Yetta turns around from her seat and she goes, Halloween was always your mother's favorite holiday. She'd start at 7 in the morning and even bring extra bags to collect for the underprivileged kids. Remember? And then Sylvia like looks guilty and she goes, yeah. So it's like she clearly spent all day trick-or-treating, claiming she was trick-or-treating for underprivileged children and then gobbling up all that candy.
Yep.
Then Fran ends up telling her as in Sylvia, that, you know, she and Maxwell got into yet another fight, this time over Maggie. And Sylvia goes, your problem is you spend too much time with your husband. She's like, in the 35 years I've been married to your father, I've seen him maybe 6 months. and then Fran goes, she goes, this was so good. She goes, well, I got to figure out a way to stop Maggie and Michael from moving in together. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving back. Oh my God, I keep struggling on my words today. She goes, well, I got to figure out a way to stop Maggie and Michael from moving in together, or else I'm going to end up moving back in here with you. And then Yetta hears this and she pops up and she goes, Franny, you can't move back in here. Then I'm going to have to be put in a home. And Sylvia goes, Ma, we put you in a home 10 years ago. And like, Yetta, like, she like processes it and then she goes, you bastards. It's like news to her.
And she's so mad about it. It's great.
So funny. It was so funny. And just also it's so sad, the fear in her. Like, Franny, you can't move in, then I'm going to have to move out.
You bastards.
I feel like, Sean, you should describe this next part because I feel like I bet you this was your favorite part of the whole series. Or do you want me to because you're lost?
Oh, the guilt part?
Yep.
I mean, the you bastards thing, I think, is maybe my favorite thing.
Oh, okay.
But this felt, you know, true.
So I'll steamroll ahead. So Sylvia then just becomes absolutely hysterical. She's like clutches her chest and she's like, oh, you fighting with your husband, it's giving me heart palpitations, it's killing me. And then she like, you know, rolls backwards on the couch and Brian's like, Ma, I didn't mean to upset you so much. What can I do to make you feel better? And then Sylvia stops dead in her tracks and she goes, learn. And she goes, the performance you just saw is called guilt. And it's every mother's secret weapon that she uses on her
every
daughter.
Jewish mother. She goes, every Jewish mother's secret weapon.
Yeah. And then she goes, she clutches Fran's hands in hers and she goes, use it to get the girl back. And then Fran goes, Ma, do you think I'm ready to unleash the power? And she goes, darling, embrace it. Use it. Pass it on. And then the room goes dark except for like a light that shines around them like a halo and like this very Star Wars like epic music
so
plays.
funny.
They look up into the heavens. And I just love it. It was very like, save the girl.
It was
with
very
your power.
With your superpower, Jewish guilt.
So good. It was so funny. It was so wacky in such a good way. Or not wacky, but like zany. And
then they pay it off, honestly, that beat. They pay it off twice with you know, your Jewish guilt doesn't work on me. I'm a shiksa, you know?
Yes,
and you know,
like,
what's his name goes like, I'm British.
Yeah. Well, so because what happens is we then cut to the next scene. Fran goes over to Maggie's new apartment that she shares with Michael, and his place is exquisite because he is a millionaire. But so she initially tries the guilt trick on Maggie, and it does not work. She's literally like, you know, is like, well, I guess if I can't convince you, you know, but I just got to say I'm getting heart palpitations. And then Maggie just goes, Fran, guilt trips don't work on chicksas. So Fran looks super disappointed and she's just like, well, at least I can tell your father I tried. I give you my blessing, okay? And she starts to head out. But then the doorbell rings and it's Mr. Sheffield who has come to also plea his case. And you know, he's basically like, Margaret, like, that was a weird way to say it. He goes, Margaret, I will not allow you to do this. Like, you must come home. And she's like, Dad, Fran gave us her blessing. Why can't you? And then he looks at Fran and he's like, you did what? And then Fran tries to fake a heart attack again. And he goes, it doesn't work on the British. And it just evolves into this really big fight between Fran and Mr. Sheffield because, he's like, I can't believe you came here and you undermined me. And she's like, you undermined me. Like, you don't respect my opinion. You don't respect my parenting. And then, she's like, maybe if we don't agree on this, I'm just going to have to take a little bit of break from this marriage. And he's like, well, maybe you should, like, because I was about to say the exact same thing. Maggie is watching this unfold and she starts to feel so bad that like she is causing this much strife between them that she's like, okay, she's like, I didn't mean to cause this much trouble. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You know what? I'm coming back home. I'm just coming back home. She literally picks up her suitcase, which she has not even unpacked. And even Michael, who seems like a nice guy, he also feels really bad. They both pick up her stuff and they're like, we're just taking it back to the house. So they leave, they close the door, they leave Fran and Mr. Sheffield alone, at which point we find out it was all an act and they were in on it together and they were both guilting them. And at that point,
I gotta say, I really loved seeing them co-parent like this. It was like genuinely enjoyable to watch them like be like, that worked, that was great. I was like, ooh, give me more of this. Like,
they were both like, I can't believe that worked. At which point the door flings open. Niles is there holding x-rays and he goes, sir, the results are back. You only have 4 months to live. And they're like, don't worry, Niles, plan A worked. Just the idea that all three of them had been they all are so wrapped into Fran, Sylvia, and like the Fiennes general orbit that this is now how they're parenting. Also, super toxic to make your children think you're going to break up.
It's awful. But then we get also Niles like takes like a double take and goes like, is this his apartment? And they go like, yeah. And then Niles just goes, he just starts crying into his head.
I know. And then the button on this, so funny.
So funny.
So literally, so Sylvia is sitting in the kitchen of the mansion with Gracie and she's going through Gracie's big bucket of Halloween candy. And she's like, no, see, well, you can't have anything that's open. And then she opens a bar that was previously unopened and she goes, see, no, this won't do. And she goes, and you can't eat anything that's loose. And then she also opens M&M's and goes, no good. And she goes, you know what? It's all unsafe. And she picks up the pail and she heads towards the door. And Gracie's like, you're going to throw out the whole pail? And Sylvia kind of pauses and she goes, yeah. She just literally stole candy from a child.
10 out of 10. Everything's better in threes. The Sylvia's flawless, delivery. It's the exact same every time.
Oh my
gosh.
It's
such a good performance. It was great. I love this episode. There's so many funny things.
She's just so sheepish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. And that was the episode. We loved it.
Loved it. 10 out of 10.
And so if there's not anything else to discuss about that, should we move into our segments? And I get to hear the new.
We should. And to celebrate our girl Maggie's new Jewish boyfriend. And now, segments.
Are we ready for segment?
We are so ready for segments. Let's go. All right, so segment time. Segments.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on to our segments? Should we get into our segments? With Sean and Toria.
Yeah.
Have we officially become the most Jewish podcast on the internet?
Well, now, as of that, I gotta tell you, it's in my blood, Toria. That music fills me with so much joy.
It just, I can't get over how different our dialogue sounds based on what the background music is.
I know.
I keep being like, did you pull different clips?
Different clips? No, I didn't pull different clips.
Well, I loved it. It was fantastic. I wanted to sort of get up out of my seat, move around.
Yep, I did. I did a little dance.
Oh, and then okay. So
I had Elizabeth come in here and lift my chair.
She's just Every time that music plays,
she like rushes in and has to like lift me up like I'm at a Jewish wedding, and I go like, "Hey,
don't drop me! Don't drop me!"
A little more stability, please.
Okay. So favorite lines and moments. I love
everything. I would like to submit this entire script for an Emmy Award.
Yes, a posthumous Emmy Award. No,
yes.
I agree.
Yes, the show is dead.
This is so funny. I don't think this one was nominated, but should have been. But so I loved Mr. Sheffield insisting that, quote, his Kay Ballard stories always kill. I love Cece saying, obviously you're mistaking me for someone else, Michael. But unless you're expecting candy to start flopping out of my tuchus line.
So good.
The You Bastards.
Yes, You Bastards is one of mine. Also, nothing an additional $780,000 couldn't fix. It's such a good line.
Sylvie, and the speech about guilt, the power.
Oh yeah,
and
that whole
responsibility of Jewish guilt.
So good.
Save the girl. It's so good.
Oh, and the button Sylvia's line delivery on just like, yeah, like 10 out of 10. This was a great episode. I really loved it.
Yiddish, we got nakas, which is a sense of pride, especially in one's children,
as defined in the episode.
Yep.
Yeah,
it was defined in the episode. I love when that happens.
Me too.
Shiksa, a non-Jewish girl that lures a Jewish boy.
Yeah.
So then, for Nanny trivia, hear about this. You have to.
Now hear this. Now hear this. X tree. Read all about it. So Nanny trivia coming in, and a newspaper spin. Yeah, exactly. Wartime in the Pacific.
This is about Andrew Levitas, who is the actor who played Michael.
Oh, okay.
And so you see this episode, you just think, some like 90s pretty boy who probably wanted to act in movies, and then nothing ever happened. And who knows, whatever. Okay, listen to this. The New York Times declared Andrew Levitas has, quote, the Midas touch when describing his continued work across multiple creative platforms. This is also from his a website about him. A mainstay on the New York and European art scene for over 2 decades, Levitas' metalwork installations are widely regarded as a breakthrough in connecting photography, sculpture, and contemporary art. His organic abstractions, paintings built from homemade pigments and organic material, in some cases entire trees, have also received critical acclaim. Levitas is one of only a handful of American artists ever accepted to show with the prestigious Société Nationale des Beaux-Arts held at the Louvre. Select exhibitions include metalwork photography, a survey, which was the first ever single artist exhibition at Philip Berkeley Square in London, Levitas, an early retrospective at New York University, and metalwork photography sculptures at Phillips de Proove in Manhattan. Recent acquisitions include the National Museum in Wales, as well as 10 Downing Street, which I believe, isn't 10 Downing Street where the Prime Minister of England lives?
That's where Sherlock Holmes lives, no?
No, I think 10...
Isn't that where Peter Pan visited?
No, 10 Downing Street is, I'm pretty sure that's the...
Tony Blair's address.
10 Downing Street.
I mean, look, this is all... it's
the Prime
cool,
Minister.
Look.
So then, wait, I'm not...
The art world is a scam, but I mean...
He is a professor at New York University, and he maintains studios in New York and London. I just think it's so... Wow. And the thing is, though, if you go look at his sculptures, they're really cool.
So, but how is he the Midas touch across entertainment?
Well, no, because it's about photography, sculpting, and painting. So I mean,
all right, yeah, cool. King of the castle over there.
So many people who appreciate art
are mad at me.
Have just realized how stupid Sean is sometimes. No, you just created enemies.
I know. No, look, this is great. I mean, that's really cool. It's cool to know that not every what happened to that guy? Did he fail? It's like No, that guy actually was like super, super successful.
Yeah, it's like acting was just the thing he was maybe least talented at among the many things he's talented at.
I mean, he was pretty good at this. So it's like, maybe it's not even talent. Maybe it's just like, acting is like a much harder gamble to get into. And maybe that wasn't even like his true passion,
I just think it's cool. Like you never would have expected it of this guy.
It would be fun if you did this kind of art and you could tell people like, oh, I'm super into metal. And then when they assume you mean heavy metal music, you go, oh, I'm sorry. No. I mean metal sculpture. And then they're like, what?
I'm into heavy metal. Yeah. Heavy metal sculpture. Well, the thing about his sculptures that look cool is it doesn't sound cool, but it looks cool. So he gets metal and he makes it look like crumpled pieces of notebook paper, but they're really colorful and pretty.
Wow.
Sean, just go to hell.
And that's in the Louvre?
Sean, you are a nincompoop.
I mean, look, I don't. Sure. I think I think there's value in art, obviously, and I love fine art, but I think modern art is hit or miss for me. I'm going to send you. Yeah.
Looks like.
I'm going to send you Basquiat.
Just scroll down.
You're sending me this guy's stuff. Let's see. I'll look at it right now. Live. This is probably very interesting for the listener. I am opening a website and I am looking. Okay, I will describe what I'm seeing. On the right side of the screen, there is like a little marble.
No, scroll down.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. So 2 flat egg-shaped pink things are interconnected by a third flat egg-shaped pink thing.
It's so pretty.
Art. The crumpled paper is kind of cool.
What about the paper airplanes made out of metal?
Yeah.
And they're writing on it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's got to be hard to make.
Yeah, probably. I wonder if you could use those as a weapon.
Oh my god! What if you just oh my god! Like instead of throwing stars, you have paper airplanes.
Yeah, but they're made out of steel.
And then hold on, you'll go to all the way to the bottom. Look at those skull things.
I like that one of these pictures. It's literally just the swing set. It's just the swing set. And it's okay, why does this guy's swing set go in the Louvre, but every swing set manufacturer in the planet isn't in the what is this?
Okay, that I will give you.
It's a seesaw.
But I like the other stuff, but I do agree.
Oh, I get it. The seesaw has the American flag painted on it.
Okay, you are cutting you off. But anyway, so that's Andrew Levitas. Interesting information. Clapping for the seesaw. Okay. So then let's move on. The Fran or the Cece or the whoever. Who do you relate to?
Niles.
Oh, that's
Niles. The pain of seeing someone younger than you have so much more success than you is very real, and I feel it all the time.
But now I'm the Niles to you, now that you get to be a stay-at-home wife.
I know, listen, which just proves the point that the grass is always greener on the other side,
But it's not always greener because you don't want my life.
No, but I want someone else's, so someone's always looking over another fence.
But no one's looking over my fence. No one wants
no one wants your dusty old yard.
No. I just don't want to work anymore. I'm tired.
Toya, nothing could grow there. It's arid.
Hey, as we established earlier, yeast is growing.
Oh, no. This is both our longest and worst episode. About the best episode of the show.
You know why? I think we've established we're morning people. We can't do this at night.
What is wrong with us?
Oh, we're zesty in the morning and we're dusty at night. Okay, so I think I probably related to Mr. Sheffield in that, unfortunately, I think I would probably tend to be more restrictive in my parenting in thinking I was doing the good thing.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, support the show by rating and reviewing it. Go wherever podcasts are sold or given away for free and leave a little review ski for us. Because it helps us. It helps us so much and it makes us feel good inside. and we would really appreciate it if you would do it. Also, we made fun t-shirts. They say Big Babcock Energy on them, and they got a picture of Cece. And we're going to donate all the proceeds to the Entertainment Community Fund to support striking WGA and SAG-AFTRA members, and also their support staffs. And you can find us on the internet at Oh Mr. Chef Pod. Oh, also, we're on Redbubble at ohmrchefpod.redbubble.com.
Yes, and it's linked in our link tree on our Instagram. And also, we don't, if the Big Babcock Energy is not for you or doesn't necessarily feel appropriate to wear around, there's also just our logo on stuff now, which is really fun. I actually just got myself a hat. I cannot wait to wear it around.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Maybe we learned our lesson and we won't do any more evening records because we're loopy and tired. But I hope you had fun, and we're going to see you, or you're going to hear us next week.
Yeah, we'll be back with another episode. And on that note, let's do a chairlift, Elizabeth.
And now, segments.
Are we ready for segment?
We are so ready for segments. Let's go. All right, so segment time. Segments.
Should we move on to our segments? Should we get into our segments? Segments with Sean and Toria.